Hey friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Kaylin May, and today we're going to be talking about the reading rush. So we're going to be talking about two things. First, I'm going to do a wrap up of everything that I read over the past week for the reading rush, and then second, I'm going to talk about some of the drama that has exploded in the past 24 hours or 48 hours. Well, this will be coming out on Wednesday, so it'll be old news by then, but I do want to address a couple of things. So first off, I'm filming outside. It's like almost 100 degrees, so I'm gonna try and make it quick. You may hear some car sounds in the background, but it just, I don't know, it's just too pretty outside, too green, and I don't get to do this when I'm at home. So all right, let's start with what I read. So the first book I finished was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa moshfegh. And this book hit two of my challenges. It hit the first book I touched and the book I read outside of my house. And I didn't love it. So this book was a book that I found based off of YouTube. I've watched a couple of people read it and enjoy it. And so I've also heard some mixed reviews. So I went into it knowing that some people don't enjoy it as much. And I read it and I was really annoyed with the main character. I am somebody who has had depressive episodes before, so I understand. I had a lot of compassion and empathy from about where she was coming from. I just didn't love sort of the way that it was executed. I wasn't a huge fan of the writing style. I wasn't a huge fan of the amount of drug use. I understand that was sort of the shtick. I could tell that Ottessa moshfegh was trying to do something. She wrote this kind of wacky book, and she was trying to do a specific, go forth and take an idea out to its furthest extent. But I didn't find it interesting. I was bored. The middle dragged. In fact, the most exciting part was sort of the last, I would say, almost 2 chapters. 3 chapters? Yeah, 2 chapters. Starting on page 255. And going on to the end, which is barely any. If the book had started at that point, I thought it would have been much stronger, much more succinct, much more interesting. This might have worked really well as a longer short story, or starting later in the book and continuing on from there. But as it stood, I gave it a 2.5. I didn't love it, but it was a pretty quick read, and we're blowing all over the place. Sorry if you're getting really, really, really crazy video. But I finished this on Wednesday. I didn't actually read Monday or Tuesday because I was packing and traveling, and then I read this Wednesday. So that was the first book. The second book I read was The Angel's Game by Ruiz zafon, and this was for my gemstone color. My birthday's in July, so it's a nice ruby red. And I also read this for the challenge The Angel's Game, the challenge that had read a book that starts with the. And then I also read it for read a book takes place in a continent different from yours. And so this takes place in Spain, which is in Europe, and then I live in North America. So I loved this. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I didn't love it as much as Shadow of the Wind, the first book, but it's gothic, it's mysterious, it has all of the just kind of creepy, adventure-y, suspensefulness of the first one. It's a prequel to Shadow of the Wind, which took me a little while to realize. It has an intersection with a couple of the characters, but it took me a while to place it, and I think just knowing that would have made the first part of it make more sense. It also is over 500 pages long, so I really had to push to get through it, but I did finish it. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be reading Prisoner of Heaven, which is the third one next in the series, and I love his writing style. I thought this one had moments where it could have been shorter. I didn't think this one needed to be quite so long, but again, it's in a literary world. It follows an author and a publisher, and just sort of it takes place in this shadowy gothic world of literature in Barcelona, and I really enjoyed it. So that's that. And then the last book I read, which I finished right down on the wire yesterday, was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. And this was the book that fulfilled the read a book in a genre that you don't normally read. So sci-fi adventure is not a genre I normally read, as well as read a book of a movie you've already seen. Okay. I watched Ready Player One this weekend actually, and read the book directly after. And I liked the book a lot more than I liked the movie. I rated it a 4 out of 5. It did have some problematic moments. Its description of the Japanese characters were fairly stereotypical. It was clunky in the few moments that it actually dealt with race. It didn't do that very well. But the storyline was edge of your seat. I also thought that, like, while I enjoyed the nostalgia, I enjoyed the 80s element of it, it had a little too many 80s references for my liking. Like, I kind of understood that it was nostalgia porn and 80s focused, but like, you were hit over the head with it. Like, every page contained like 5 separate, completely unrelated 80s references. Which just, you know, some of them went over my head, some of them made me feel seen, some of them I just didn't care about and was bored with. But for the most part, I loved the writing style. I enjoyed the storyline. I thought that the book gave way more nuance, it was way darker, way more dystopian. The characters had better backstories. I understood their motivations more. The love story made more sense and was less, I don't know, it all made more sense. So I gave this, I think, a 4 out of 5 as well, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed reading it, and I felt like, you know, when you stop reading a book, but you're sort of stuck in that world afterwards. Maybe it's because I also watched the movie in the same weekend, but I did feel very stuck in the Ready Player One world afterwards. So these were the 3 books I read for the reading rush. All told, I think it was over 1,200 pages. I sort of backloaded it. I didn't actually start reading until Wednesday, so pretty good for 4 days of reading. The next thing I want to address very quickly is the sort of controversy or drama, frustrations building around the reading rush this year and how it was executed, specifically around a live stream and a book club book. So I didn't participate in the book club. I didn't partake in that part of the challenge. I just knew, because I was traveling and quarantining and COVID proofing, so many things, I just wasn't gonna have time. I didn't want to go out and buy a book. I was just reading what I had on hand. So I didn't have a personal interaction with this, but this has taken on a life of its own. It seems. So for those of you who don't know, the Reading Rush had a book group, a book club book, basically, a community read. And that book was Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. So this book was picked out of, I think there were like 4 or 5 options, and the community voted on it, and it was picked to be the group read. And the frustration stemmed when on the 25th, I think that was Saturday or Sunday? Saturday. On Saturday, when the live stream went up with Ariel and Raylene to talk about the book, to discuss this book, they hadn't read it. They read maybe 25 to 50 pages of it. They didn't finish it, and they sort of laughed it off in the first couple of minutes and changed it into a question and answer video. Now, I didn't watch this video and I didn't read this book and I didn't participate in this part of the reading rush, so again, I can't speak from personal experience, but there was a lot of frustration vocalized around not only the performative allyship and activism of this, Such a Fun Age is written by a Black author, and they benefited off of that, but then didn't actually follow through and read the book and created a live stream that still had the title of it's talking about this book, but without actually talking about the book. So there was a performative aspect to it that people were really frustrated about. And then there was the frustration of, it was just poor, that's a poorly executed thing to do. This is their job. They get sponsors, they have money based off of this reading rush, and they asked people to buy merch. People went out and bought this book. People read this book. There were accounts of people who had like stayed up late the night before to finish it in time to be able to talk about it on the live stream. And to show up so unprepared, to not read the book, it's just a bad look. It's a bad look. It's unprofessional. If you say you're gonna do something, you should probably show up and do it. So I I'm frustrated and disappointed to see that that's sort of how that turned out. I also have compassion for the fact, as an event producer, that what they did is they ran a week-long virtual event, and that there's a lot of moving pieces, that, you know, it can get largely overwhelming. And while that does not excuse their behavior, I'm not trying to defend them in any way. I do understand that, you know, maybe they ran out of time, but this isn't their first reading rush. It takes, you know, time to do the back end. It takes time to make sure that all of the cogs are running smoothly. So if you know that you have a book that you have publicly said that you will discuss by a certain date, maybe front load that book. Maybe read that book first. Maybe read it before the rush even starts. There are no rules here. You are the host. You're hosting this live stream. Make that book a priority. Or if you really are so overwhelmed you can't make it happen, get a couple of people who you trust, who have read the book, to come and discuss it. People who have interesting perspectives on it to come and lead that live stream in your place. Own up to the fact you haven't read it. Apologize and bring in somebody so that the people who were experiencing that live stream, those that bought the book, those that read the book, those that trusted in your goodwill and good intentions, at least have something to walk away from it. And I look forward to hopefully seeing them grow a little bit from this. I think that it's hard to be a person on the internet. It's hard to put yourself out there. And with that comes responsibility. And with the larger platform you have, the more responsibility you have. And so I hope that they take some time, they really hear their community, and they learn and grow from it and come back with a better reading rush next year. And with that, I hope that regardless of how frustrated or disappointing this reading rush may have been, I hope you had a good week reading. Since there are so many sirens, I'm going to sign off for now. I think something's going down in this neighborhood. But I hope you are well, stay safe, keep reading, and I will talk to you next video. Cheers.